I've welcomed people to the family. I've said hello to everybody. I've told you about the new members perk, which is going to be every month, at least one. I'm going to see how it goes. It may be that I'll give out more than one piece of merchandise a month, but definitely at least one to one member. And it'd be sort of, you know, just to say thank you to people that have been members for a long time. Sorry, I think I'm going to sneeze. Oh, bless me. Jesus, as we say in Spain. So, you know, we're going to talk about gatekeepers tonight. And as I was saying earlier, I noticed in your comments, there's a few of you didn't know what gatekeepers were in this context. I certainly didn't know what gatekeeper was. And I sort of almost wish that I still didn't know, because I feel like with this, and with the Nicola Bulley case in particular, we've gone down, you know, I don't like these rabbit holes that we go down. I don't like the way it makes me feel, the way you can't sort of believe what anyone says or trust anything, or I don't like it. It's horrible. And I sort of almost wish that you could sort of not see it anymore. But anyway, you can't. So this is where we are. And I've learned to realize that there are gatekeepers, definitely. And when you think about it, obviously the sort of first meaning of a gatekeeper would be somebody that lets people in and lets people out, you know. And a gatekeeper, in the context that we're going to talk about tonight, is exactly that. But we're talking about information. Gatekeepers control information. And really, when you think about it, it's necessary, because there's so much information out there in the world. You know, we can't take in all that information. So a gatekeeper is someone who controls what information we hear about. And of course, there are lots of, you know, in this age of social media and, you know, just information on tap. I mean, years ago, it would have been easy to be a gatekeeper to control information, wouldn't it? Because you only had so many news outlets. Let's imagine when we only had 4 channels, and then maybe had the radio or that, but they were all mainly controlled by, you know, only a certain amount of broadcasters and newspapers. But so that information was always easy to control because there was limited sources of information. Of course, now there's unlimited sources of information. You know, you could literally, if you wanted to go online now and find proof or you know, of anything, you probably could. You could go online and find somebody who was saying one thing about something that had happened with evidence, and then somebody else who was saying the complete opposite with evidence also. So in today's world, really what we have to do is we have to take in all this information, look for it, assess it ourselves, and decide ourselves what we think is true or what isn't, because we don't really know. We don't know. Hi, Carla. And exactly, Caroline, the problem is who controls and pays them, but how do you know? How do you know? How can you possibly find out? You know, what I've come to realize is you cannot, you know, you'll never get to the bottom of it. So it's almost pointless, really, because it just depresses you to think that somebody might be out there doing that. You know, how do you ever get to the bottom of it? Hi, Ocean Blue. Right, these dogs, I don't know what. Hey, Rocket, stop. They're just bouncing over the sofa and fighting with each other. Yeah, so it's like, how, you know, where do you stop? And it can literally drive you crazy, I think, because all the different sort of you know, things that you can see on the internet about, if we just take this one case, the Nicola Bulley case, that's just one case, that's just one thing that's happening in the world. How many other things are happening in the world? And you could go down a similar rabbit hole with most of it, but some seem to be deliberately blurred, don't they? And this is, you know, I did that video about the 77th Brigade and how they try and confuse people. Thing is, in the end, people confuse you. You get confused so much that you just don't know what to believe. And that's how people sort of just give up on things. Anyway, so gatekeepers basically are people who control information. So stop it. Stop. They're like that looking at me. Yeah, gatekeepers who control information. So just from as small as like my channel. My channel is just a small YouTube channel. I suppose I'm giving you some information, or I do give you information in videos, and you watch it, you assess it, you decide if you think it's logical or not logical. And what my advice to anybody would be, watch everything, digest everything, and then make your own mind up, because there is no exact truth, I don't think. You know, there's always grey areas, isn't there, in most things. But then we get sort of the media, this mainstream media. Of course, they have gatekeepers, because who decides? Who wakes up in the morning and their job is to decide what they're going to put on BBC, what they're going to put on Sky News, what they're going to put on ITV? These are the gatekeepers. So there's all this information going on in the world, and especially now, because the world's a big place and we can get information. You know, there's wars going on, there's floods, there'll be an earthquake, there'll be a plane crash, there'll be a this, there'll be a that. Who decides which of that news gets through to us actually, you know, to watch on the TV? So these are the gatekeepers. These are the ones. And are we led down a certain agenda? I mean, I've noticed, obviously, it used to be the Russia-Ukraine war was on the TV every day, day in, day out. And now it's rarely spoken about, because then there's been the Israel war, Israel and Hamas. So then that was sort of all over the TV. Then there'll be, you know, this year probably will be an election year in the UK. That'll be the main news. You know, who decides? Who decides what news we're interested in? You know, do they test things out and see how it goes? Now, a lot of people have said lately, oh God, there just seems to be all these river deaths. You know, oh my God, another one. But there probably always were lots of river deaths. But now we're being given that information because mainstream media knows we're interested in it because of the Nicola Bulley case. You know, so the mainstream media, they want to sell their newspapers. They want you to watch their news programs. Of course they do. That's what they're there for. They're not there to just talk about obscure things that nobody wants to know about. So they put these, and then it seems like, oh my God, all these people dying in rivers. But it's probably been exactly the same always, but we just didn't get to hear about it. So this is what the gatekeepers do. They control, but they also control narratives. You know, they make us think or they try and make us think in a certain way. And if you think outside the narrative and you have an opposite view to maybe the mainstream view, you know, they can make you, it can make you look, so, you know, I've always tried to think for myself. You know, I don't watch the TV much. So I do watch Sky News. I watch lots of different news programs, and then anything that I see on there, and I'm not saying that Sky News is unbiased, of course they're not, but then anything I see on there, then I'll go and look at other, you know, if it's something that piques my interest, I try and get a rounder view of it so that I'm not just taking that one view. Also, yeah, yeah, Julie, the BBC, you know, well, you see, the BBC really, they are a state-controlled TV. You know, they're like, they're no different from a Russian TV channel or any TV channel that really is state operated. So You know, they can't really go against, they're not going to go on there and say, abolish the monarchy, are they? Or they're not going to go on there and say, let's have a revolution. They're just not going to do that. Also, it's actually quite depressing, isn't it? I've noticed in the news, there's a lot of over Christmas, it was like travel chaos. It's always, isn't it? Travel chaos, weather warning, stay at home. It's like they don't want you to go out. They don't want you to go out. They want you to stay at home because you know, really, you're less problem if you stay at home, aren't you? You know, so there's all that. There's a lot about this weather chaos, travel chaos, don't travel, don't do this. But then, you know, the powers that be, they just travel all over the place and don't worry about it. But anyway, also, sometimes it's a deflection from something else that's going on. You know, there's this divide and rule mentality, you know. Hi, Susan. You know, so they'd rather have you sort of people fighting. You know, you've got like the race wars or the gender wars or the culture wars, and rather that you're all fighting between you, we're all fighting between ourselves, rather than look up and see what's actually happening up there. You know, the people at the top. So everybody's like, I get you, blame it. They like to blame things on other, you know, blame everything on everybody else, but don't look up at us when really it is our fault. So that's another thing that the gatekeepers do. Now, in this case, in the Nicola Bulley case, I think there's been a lot of gatekeepers, but the trouble is, how do you decide? You know, how do you know who's a gatekeeper or not a gate? You know, is it? And then why? Why would they want to cause so much confusion over this case? You know, what is the reason for that? For me, it felt like, now I want to say something very clearly now, that the way I have always looked at the Nicola Bulley case and still look at it, I haven't changed my mind, is I think poor Nicola, I think there was some problems in that relationship, because that is because of the welfare check on the 10th of January that I feel that. And I feel like something strange happened that day. Now, to me, it wasn't an accidental death. It was either she did take herself off and do it herself because she just couldn't face anything anymore. Though that really sits uneasy with me to think that, because just because of the dog being there, etc. Or there was foul play, you know, and that is my most likely thought. But I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. I have no idea what happened. All I know is something happened, or all I feel is something happened. And one thing I just want to say here as well before I carry on is, you know, my channel is Vicky Marie Chats. I'm not an amateur detective or an armchair detective. I'm never going to solve that case. I haven't got the access to the resources that you would need to solve that case. I can't go questioning people. I can't look at phone records, hospital records. I can't go and interview the family. I can't do any of that. You know, you try writing letters and emails. The coroner never replies. I've sent him a couple of emails. He never replies. How can I make him reply? I can't make him reply. So I can't solve it. All I can do is keep talking about it, keep it in the public eye so that she doesn't get forgotten. That's the important thing. But not only Nicola as well, because there are a lot of cases that shouldn't be forgotten. So I just wanted to say that. So I don't feel like I'm an armchair detective. I'm not a detective. I'm just someone who likes to chat about things. And especially things, strange things that happen. And I will always keep Nicola's case in the public eye as long as I can. You know, but you get to a point where you just think, well, if the family aren't taking it any further and the police aren't taking it, only the police can solve it. Nobody else can solve it. You know, people can talk about it and do this, that, and the other. Another thing I wanted to say is that there's a lot of well-meaning people, let's say. I think, you know, I've sort of on Twitter, when I look at Twitter or I look at Facebook, and they're always talking about the case, but I just think it's confusing sometimes. I don't think it's helpful. It's day in, day out about, oh, what about this on the timeline? Or what did he say this? Or did that? How is that helpful? Because it's just like confusing the issue even more. You know, what, you know, they're not going to achieve anything by doing that. It's just almost making things more confusing. And especially sometimes on Facebook, you know, you get these anonymous posts. I hate that. You know, if I had a Facebook group, I wouldn't allow someone to do it, make an anonymous post, because who is that? Who is that coming on, putting a post on, saying something or releasing some bit of information, that supposed information that, you know, nobody knows if it's true or not, and not even putting a name or a face, you know, to their anonymous post. They're just trying to stir things up. They're just trying to confuse people even more. So sometimes I think social media doesn't help in that sense, unless you know, what's the point in just going over things 3 or 4 times a day with no proof of anything, just saying, what if this happened, or what if that happened? What is the point in that? I don't understand what the point of that is. Anyway, we know that hygiene, we know that the Susan, the coroner, will he retire, or will he be pushed, or will he be bumped off? You know what I mean? It just gets yeah. Yeah, Jim, I know you couldn't see that she would leave her daughters, but you know, people do, unfortunately. But I don't think that. I think there was foul play. That's my heartfelt thought, but I have no proof of that. So, you know, and I can't, what's the word? I can't go and investigate it. I can't, can I? I can't just roll up and start interviewing people, you know. So I can only, I've got my feelings, and as I say, I will always keep Nicola in the public eye as long as I can. But not only Nicola, other people as well, where strange things have happened. But I think you've got to be wary sometimes of not seeing conspiracy in everything. That's another thing as well, because one thing, you know, you go down this rabbit hole and one thing leads to another. Everything can't be a conspiracy. Things do happen. People do delete themselves? You know, we might not have heard much about it before, about people walking into rivers, but they do, and they have done for years. You know, you can't imagine it because you would never do it, but you know, there's a lot of things that you can't imagine people doing, but unfortunately they do. Anyway, so what we're going to talk, all right, so I've got a little bit sidetracked. So first of all, there's a few things that I'm going to talk to you about. First of all, I'm going to talk to you about a blogger who does a lot, you know, a lot of blogs about gatekeeping, etc. And some of you will have read his blogs. This is Chris Ness, Chris Substack. Now, I agree with Chris in some things, and there's lots of things that I don't agree with him with. And I have contacted him to ask him if it was okay to discuss his blog on here, and he said, yeah, that's fine. So I don't feel bad about doing that. So I'm going to talk about him in a moment, just because he says a lot about gatekeepers. So he, you know, he's a strong believer in gatekeepers, and I'm going to read out some excerpts from his blog, and in the description box I'm going to give you the link to his blogs, and you can subscribe. It's free. He's a non-profit. He's not a YouTuber. He's a blogger. He's a non-profit blogger. And if you want to read his blogs, they're interesting to read. There's a lot of them, because he's been blogging now right back from when Nicola, you know, first went missing, really, I think, or certainly after her body was found. And he went to the inquest as well, so he's got some, you know, first-hand knowledge there and of the area. Now, as I say, I don't agree with everything he says, and some people don't like his blogs. But my advice to anyone would be read everything, watch everything, listen to everything, and then you decide what you think. You know, you can take a bit, think, oh yeah, that makes sense in one thing, and then watch something else and think, oh, but that bit makes more sense. You can agree, you know, it's like watching my videos or anybody's videos. You don't have to like every single video or agree with every single thing that somebody says. You know, you might watch one of my videos where you think, oh God, yeah, that's right, I totally agree with it. And then I might do a video about something else and you might think, oh God, what's she talking about? You know, some people spit their dummies out their pram then, and it's like, oh, I don't agree with you there. Well, you know, that's fine. We don't have to agree with each other on everything, do we? So what you should do is, in my opinion, is watch everything, listen to everything, read everything in the subject that you're particularly interested in, and then you decide. And it is possible to take bits that you agree with and bits that you don't agree with, like, and that's what I do with Chris's blogs. And I like it when he does the audio ones as well, because some people don't like his voice, but I actually quite like his voice, so I almost prefer it when he does an audio one. But you know, there you go, we're all different. The world would be so boring if we were all the same and we all like the same thing, wouldn't it? So I'm going to talk about him. Then I'm going to have a little bit of a look at Scott. I don't know if he's watching. He's probably doing his own thing. But then I'm going to have a look at the video that he did, the Nicola Bulley solved video, which, you know, to me it didn't solve anything. I'm sorry, Scott, I don't want it, but to me it didn't. But anyway, you know, again, everybody's got their own opinions, but it was a very well put together video. It's quite an unusual video because I've never really seen a video like that on Scott's channel before, and I have watched Scott quite a lot, certainly from the beginning, you know, on the Nicola Bulley stuff, etc. So it's quite an unusual video, but there's a few things I want to point out on there, and we're going to have a look at that quite, not the whole video, we're just going to look at one particular part of it. What was the other thing? Right, so we'll start off with just having a look at Chris. So Laurie's been reading Chris from the beginning. Yeah. Oh, Jean, you would really like his blog because it gives you a lot to think about. You're quite, you know, if you're listen, I don't believe everything, and you know, as I say, he mentions a few people that you think are gatekeepers. There's only one of them that I'm certain is, which we'll talk about tonight in this. The others I don't necessarily think are. There are definitely some YouTubers right from in the beginning that have disappeared, and then there's some YouTubers now that you know, I don't like going in and mentioning names. Nobody that ever comes on my chat, put it that way. But there are some YouTubers that I just think, what are they actually trying to say? You know, they are trying to confuse things as well. You know, that's why I don't like as well that I don't like to comment on YouTube videos sometimes, because people will say to me, oh, such and such has solved this. And I'm not even talking about Scott there. I'm talking about other ones. Oh, such and such said this, and that's what happened. And I just think, well, you know, no, it isn't. Where's the evidence? You know, they just say the most ludicrous things sometimes. And I don't want to say that to someone. If someone says to me, oh, have you watched this video? It's brilliant. I don't want to turn around and say, oh yeah, I've watched it. It's crap. You know, so better to just not say anything about any of them. You know, no comments. And then I don't get into trouble then, because I don't want to get into trouble about things. So let's see if I can find his blog up here. I mean, I can't read out all his blogs because, as I say, he's done lots, but very, very interesting. You know, you always get new information from anything, don't you? Right. So I'm just going to show you his blog, but I will put a link in the description, and then I'm going to read out a few bits that I've just picked out, that particularly about gatekeepers. And we have to, you know, so this is it. So Chris's Substack, he's looked at the College of Policing reviews, establishment whitewash, establishment confession, etc. It's very interesting. So anytime there's a development, I mean, there's loads. I don't know how many in total, but there literally are loads. Let's see, of articles. So it's worth a listen to. He's not a Peter Folding fan, I'll just tell you that now. If he's talks about organised crime, accounting and finance, you know, so they're quite technical, I'd say. Sometimes you need to read them a couple of times, but I say I prefer the audio ones because I quite like listening to him. But so that's him. And what I'm going to just read out now are a couple of things that he said about gatekeepers. And in fact, if I can show you that. Let's see. Oh, yeah. So, you know, he talks about the illusion of free choice. I like this diagram that was on one of his blogs. So you've got the poor cow here and the slaughterhouse, and you've got the left way of entering or the right way of entering, but they both lead the same way. So, and I do think that's true. I think we are given in society an illusion of free choice. We think we're making free choices, but are we really? Anyway, so this is what he has to say about gatekeepers. Most gatekeepers speak a lot of truth in any given scenario, which might sound fine. However, this is devised to be bait on a hook, designed to hook people like fish and keep them away from the bigger truths that must be concealed. This is different from censorship. That is entirely different. Censorship and deplatforming are blunt instruments that were nonetheless so effective in facilitating and getting away scot-free with innumerable crimes against humanity. So this has now given way to today's more nuanced techniques in distorted information warfare in a digital age, disinformation and misinformation. Back when Elon Musk bought Twitter was just part of this transition between the two approaches to allow the unelected ruling classes. I mean, I do feel at the moment, it feels like Elon Musk sort of rules the world, isn't it? All the world leaders just fawn over him, you know, because he's got so much money practically, you know, you just think, what's going on? The world, I suppose young people now, they're growing up in this world, they don't know any different. But for someone like me, and for, you know, I come from a different generation, and the world has changed so much. And I suppose, you know, that probably was true for my mum and dad, that they probably, you know, the world I grew up in was nothing like the world they grew up in. And the world my son is growing up in, and then he'll have children, hopefully, and then the world they'll grow up in will be different. So I know that things change, but I do think it's this total overblast of information, isn't it? And we know, all of us that have been following the Nicola Bulley case, if anyone tell me that their mental health hasn't been affected by it in some way or another, we all have, because it's all so confusing. And just as you know, you sort of think one thing, something else comes out, and it's just like one, you know, it in a year, so many things have happened, so much information that's come out. We don't even know if we're coming or going with it. So they play to the masses. Oh, it's just so to allow the unelected ruling classes to continue retaining absolute control by providing the illusion of return to freedom, they play to the masses to generously let them choose which of their controlled puppets they'd rather be humiliated by. Now, you know, when it comes to governing and that, like, we'll have an election this year, Well, it'll either be Keir Starmer or it'll be Rishi Sunak who'll win. You know, we haven't got, I personally would prefer proportional representation, because I don't see how you basically, same in America, isn't it? You're choosing between Trump or Biden. You're choosing between two bad candidates. You don't have a real choice. Like, we don't have a choice in the UK, really. We've got limited choice, but in the end, people will probably just vote for the least worst one, you know, or in their eyes, whoever they think is the least worst one. Some people will always vote Conservative, no matter what. Some people will always vote Labour, no matter what. But where's the real choice? You know, there is no real choice in my eyes. So, yeah. And then he gives this quote, which I think is a good quote. These are just literal snapshots out of his blog. There's so much more in it. I couldn't read it all out to you, but I just wanted to read a couple of bits out that relate to the gatekeeping. So, governments and corporations, for the first time in history, have the power basically to hack human beings. You know, because we're in this, it is like 1984. If you've read the book by George Orwell, which it was 1984, but it's happened a bit later than that. It's 2023. But you feel like 1984 has arrived in a way, because we can be monitored all the time, you know, and that can be a good thing when they're trying to catch criminals or, you know, something like that. But really, anyway, but the big story of our era is the ability to hack human beings. And by this, I mean, if you have enough data and you have enough computing power, you can understand people better than they can understand themselves. And then you can manipulate them in ways which were previously impossible. And don't they just know it and work it to their advantage every day? Well, we can see it on our social media feeds, can't we? You know, Google is always listening. So if you were on here now, if I was talking about I wanted to buy a new pair of shoes, or I wanted to take up golf, before you know it, on your Facebook feed or on your social media feed, all these things start popping up about new shoes or playing golf. You know, we are being listened to all the time. Anyway, never for a moment was this ever to be an independent review into the Lancashire Constabulary missing person investigation. So Chris takes a dim view of the Lancashire Constabulary as well. So although he doesn't really like Peter Folding, he doesn't like the Constabulary any better. In the same way that the inquest was never going to be about how, when and where Nicky died. So he's very much on Nicky's side as well, which I quite like. So the review does, however, provide ample opportunity for the numerous establishment players to create the illusion of providing insight into what lies behind the official narrative. However, this is a ruse to keep people distracted and in the dark. Any claims to be breaking down the COP review or similarly, gosh, I can't even say it, an analysis from going through it with a fine tooth comb is a clear indication of deceit. The review is a colossal fraud on the public. Not a single one of the scammers would dare acknowledge the above broad points for want of upsetting the manipulative mind control techniques and the hold they have on audiences. Their gatekeeper role is to prevent justice being served, and if they can drag it out over years, then they will, enticed both by the lure of enhancing their profile and by making ill-gotten gains at the expense of Nicky's daughters having spent their first Christmas without their mother. So, yeah. So that's just a couple of things that he says. And you know, I do think it's worth a read anyway, if you've got about a week to spare, because as I say, there's quite a lot. Hi, Ebo. Yeah, you don't like it. So a lot of people don't like him, but you know, there you go. That's our choice, isn't it? But I don't, you know, I like listening to him, and I'll always take his points on board. But, you know, I don't agree with everything he says, but there you go. Can't agree with everything, can you? I'm sure he doesn't agree with everything I say. Oh, bye, Carla. So, Chris isn't a channel, actually. Chris is a blogger. But also, you know, sometimes I have to talk about other channels in the sense of I can't put an excerpt from Scott's video up and not mention him, can I? I can't. So, there you go. Well, and that's true. Eba, what you're saying is true. It could be that Chris is a gatekeeper. I could be a gatekeeper. This is the whole thing that sort of is freaky about this case, isn't it? Anyone could be a gatekeeper. So how do we know who are gatekeepers, who aren't? You know, it's just like your mind just boggles with the whole thing. But anyway. Hi, DMV. Wendy fell asleep. Oh, is it that interesting, Wendy? Thank you, Jean. Yeah, no, I don't have mods because mods start to, you know, that can cause problems. It has on a few channels. But anyway, the only reason I don't like to, I thought I just explained all that earlier, actually. I'm sorry, Carla, if you didn't hear it. The reason I don't mention other channels is because when people say to me, oh, have you seen such and such's video? And then I have to say, well, yeah, I've seen it, but I didn't like it. But I have to mention, Chris is not, for a start, another channel, but I'm mentioning because I'm talking about gatekeepers, and he talks a lot about gatekeepers. And I mentioned Scott's channel because I'm just about to show you a little clip from it. So how can I not mention it? That is just, you know, what do I do? Just go in there and say, and anyway, never mind. But I'm sorry you feel like that. Maybe you'll come back. Oh, do you, Nick? Well, that's interesting. But you know, that's it. Anything's possible. That's why I don't like the YouTube channels where you don't see a face. I really don't like that. Because if you can't see somebody's face, how can you even see who they are or whatever? You could be anyone. They could be anyone. They literally could be anyone. So, okay. So what we're going to look at now, which I think you might find interesting, because the reason that I've got to, anyway, never mind. I don't have to give reasons, to be honest, but there is a reason. So we're going to look briefly. Let me just put these down. So we're going to look briefly at, I'm going to show you what the video is that I'm going to talk about. I think most of you have probably seen this video. Just got to find it now. So this was a video that Scott put out. And as I say, I expect I'm not going to play the video. I just want you to see what, because I've got to give Scott the credit for the video that I am going to show a short bit of. And this was his video, Nicola Bulley Case Solved. I think most of you have probably seen it, but there will be a link in the description box. Okay. Now, in that video, of course, if you've seen it, you know, it was, I personally don't see how it solved the case, but anyway, it was interesting, and there was a few points raised, wasn't there? And the points that were raised, particularly, were, let me just find this. Now, So the points that were raised, that what he said, and everyone has to make their own mind up. You, Carla, you want to mention another channel, you mention it. But I won't comment on it because I can't comment, you know, because, well, mention it. If you want to mention another channel, mention it and we'll see how it goes. Let's see how it goes. I'll probably get a load of hate. You know, I get like hate from other channels if I don't mention them. I get hate if I do mention them. But, you know, I'm trying to be... I've tried my very best to stay out of drama and I've got pulled into drama anyway, but this is not for drama. The reason I'm doing that, there is a reason, which we'll see in a minute. So what's our vote on this? Is this Ernie? What is this Ernie? You know, this is the assertion that was made in the video that this is Ernie. So we've got 2 yeses. Everybody feel the same? No, there's a reason for this, Chumba, that I'm doing this. It's not just for nothing. So we've got, yeah, most are saying yes. For me, I think it looks like him. Of course it looks like him. But I don't know. I'm not 100%. I think, right, I'd say that most of you are saying yes, it is. And then and a couple are on the fence. I'm on the fence. I wouldn't say no. Thank you, Wendy. I would not say definitely yes, but I wouldn't say definitely no. I know that's useless, but that's how I feel really about all of these that I'm going to show you. Got yeses, we've got no's, we've got not sure's. Maggie's saying yes. You know, is it a real photo? Where did it come from? You know, where did this video come from? You know, that's as well. Where did it come from? Did Scott find this as he was researching? Did somebody send it in? You know, I just don't know. So we've got, you see, we're going for, we've got definitely him, we've got definitely not, we've got maybe on the fence. So I don't know, but this is what I'm saying about, I am not a detective. I can't go and ask Ernie if that's him. Do you know what I mean? That would be the logical thing to do. That's what the police would do, isn't it? Or does it even matter if it was him or not? What does it prove? You know, so that's the other thing that I did think, I think, where's the, you know, where's the value in that? What is it proving about what happened to Nikki? You know, so anyway. Okay, so there you go. So that was the first one, wasn't it? Then there was the next one. Let's see. What about this one? So this was the next one that was alleged. Well, exactly, Desi. To me, proof, where's the proof? Where's the evidence? If there's no evidence, you know, where's the evidence? But and this is, again, is exactly the same as far as I can see. It looks like him. It could be him. Of course it could be him. It could be him, but it could not be him as well. Do you know what I mean? So again, where's the evidence? I just want the evidence, that's all. And also, what is it, you know, what does it prove? I don't know what it proves. Was he in the police? Sort of looks like him. You've got the little dimple here, the lips. You know, it does. It looks like him. But do you know what? I wouldn't want to go on, you know, go on. I wouldn't want to convict him on that. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't want to go on trial. And if you're in a trial and say it definitely was him. Yeah, people, you know, people do. But it's a strange coincidence, though, isn't it? That there were, you know, I think it was the same video, was it? I don't know. So I don't even know where the video came from. That's all as well. So that was the next one. So I don't, you know, people can look very similar, but you know, I wouldn't, again, you wouldn't want to be, you know, put away on that evidence like that. Oh yeah, he looks a bit like Peter, you know, and you know, I'm not a lover of Peter, but I can't look at that and think that is, you know, I couldn't swear that that was Peter. So, you know, and you can see just amongst us, we can see just amongst us, we're not sure. You know, some people are saying definitely, other people are saying definitely not, other people are saying maybe. Now I've got one more. I've got one more to show you. What about this? Sorry to put this face up though. He's not my favourite person, as you know. It's probably when he was ranting about me. But one of my subscribers sent me the picture to say, is that Eddie in that same, dressed as a policeman there? Now that wasn't mentioned in the video. What do you think about that? So is that a young EDDY? A young twang? Ah, yes, Juliet. So is it? What do you think? I'm going to show you, and this is why I had to mention the video, because I'm going to show you the clip out the video. Is that him? And what's the odds of all three of them being in the same video? Where has this video even come from? I don't even know where this video's come from. You know, but anyway, I'm going to show you the video bit. But my point is that all those three could be or might not be. You know, I don't think any of them are definite. That person looks as much like him as the others looked at like each other. Now, here's the video coming up. Well, it should be coming up in a minute. Now, I just want you to know I have blocked out Scott on here, not because I don't, you know, it's nothing personal against Scott, but I've turned the volume down and blocked out his face just so that we can concentrate on the, because otherwise you get distracted, obviously. So just one more time the video and then we'll go back to the photos. Yeah, it's not dead clear. Okay, so the point I'm trying to make really is, one, where did this video come from? Two, I don't see that this solves the case in any way. But 3, you know, what's the odds of, on the same video, you've got someone who's the double of Ernie, supposedly, someone who's the double of him, and also someone who's the double of him. So what's that all about? You know, that's all. What? So who said it came from the news? So Chum said, yeah, but why, when you say it came from the news? So, you know, what, did somebody send that to Scott, or did Scott just happen to be watching the news and then spotted all that? But why did he not mention the one that looked like Eddie in it? So anyway, I don't know. The other thing is, exactly, DMV, the other thing is, it's a total, oh God, I've got to get that face off there. Hang on, let me go back a bit. It's a total mind-blowing thing, and this is what makes me think about gatekeeping. I think if anyone is a gatekeeper, he definitely is, because of the way he's manipulated his channel right from the beginning. I mean, I only started watching, I didn't start watching his channel until he tagged me. When I made a video on Nicola Bulley, and then he tagged me in and started sending people over saying, oh, you know, we've come over here for him, trying to, and the very first video I ever watched of his, he was trying to goad Grizzly True Crime in the say, you know, and she just ignored him. And whatever you think of Grizzly, she's not my favorite YouTube channel. I never watch her now. I did used to watch, you know, in the beginning we watched everyone, didn't we? But she has done really well. She's been really successful. You can't take that away from her. You know, whatever, whether I like her or not, enough people like her so that she's got loads of subscribers and she's done well. So it doesn't matter whether I like her or not. That's why I don't like to criticize other YouTubers. Everybody takes, you know, their thing from each different channel. If you want to watch my channel and enjoy it, that's great. Why would anyone tell you not to watch my channel? I wouldn't say to you, oh, don't watch that channel. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm not the YouTube police saying, oh, don't watch that channel and don't do that. For fuck's sake, it's the most ridiculous thing that I've ever heard. It's YouTube. If you want to watch, you know, whatever channel you want, that's nothing to do with me. How is it anything to do with me to tell somebody else which channel to watch? Just beyond me. Anyway, so whatever you think of Grizzly or not, if you like her, watch her. You know, she's got a massive following now, so she's doing something right that people like. Whether I like her or not doesn't matter, does it? It's like saying you don't like, I don't particularly like the Beatles, but you know what, loads of people do. You know, don't particularly like, I don't know, the Rolling Stones, but loads of people do. I like Bruce Springsteen, but loads of people don't. You know, for God's sake, just the mind police, you know, like, just get out of people's opinions. Let people do their own thing and make their own mind up, and they'll either watch your channel or they won't. And they might watch your channel, they might watch mine, they might watch 20 other channels. You know, for fuck's sake, what's it got to do with you? Anyway. That yeah, Grizzly's not my favorite channel, but as I say, lots of people do like her, so she's doing something right as far as other people are concerned. And it's not up to anybody else, you know, to tell people not to watch her or whatever. So anyway, the first time I heard his channel, he never used to show his face. I don't know if you remember that. And he used to have his picture was like this little old man with a little dog on his shoulder, and then suddenly, for ages, have never shown his face and only talking, he suddenly started showing his face. But I know exactly, this YouTubers out there that have got me. Look at Andrew Tate. I can't stand Andrew Tate, but loads of people like him, or Russell Brand, or whatever. You know, you can't what am I going to do? Go on there and say, well, don't you all don't watch Russell Brand, come and watch me? You know, people will watch Russell Brand if they want to. It won't because I tell them not to, or I wouldn't tell them anyway. You know, viva la differenza. That's it, Heather. It wouldn't do if we're all the same, would we? So basically, I just want to show that because someone sent it me and I don't know what it means or if it means anything. And to be perfectly honest, I don't care really because it doesn't make any difference to the case. You know, what has been achieved by that, saying it's solved. It's not solved. Of course, it's not solved. So only the police can solve it, and people can complain about the police as much as they want, but there'll only be the police that can solve it. I can't solve it. No YouTuber is going to be able to solve it. Peter Folding's not going to be able to solve it. He doesn't even want to solve it. He doesn't even want to reopen the case. He just wants people to say that he was right. So there you go. That's what I wanted to say about that. So I will keep on when it's appropriate talking about the Nicola case. I hope in some way it gets reopened or some, because there's something, but I don't think all these things are helpful. And the same, to be honest, on Twitter and things like that, sometimes I think they're very well-meaning, a lot of the people on there, but it just causes more confusion. And I don't know who are the gatekeepers and who aren't the gatekeepers. So also with, you know, not only with YouTube channels or social media accounts and things, you don't know who the people that are commenting on Twitter or Facebook, or the people that are commenting on YouTube. You don't know who is the gate. You know, there's probably that 77th Brigade or whatever are probably out there making comments on all sorts, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, etc., making comments left, right, and centre just to stir things up. So in the end, you just don't know anything. And it is. Somebody said earlier, it's a mindfuck. I think it was you, DMV. So it was just like, you know, it's like your mind could explode in the end. And honestly, it gets, and then you get all the nastiness, you know, to have a man like that just rant about me who doesn't even know, out of nowhere for no reason. I've never said a bad thing about him before that. You just think there's something weird, isn't there? You know, it's like, what is that about? Anyway,